won UK Nationals as a Gary Oak cosplayer using a Gary Oak theme team. So it's maybe no surprise to see that now we're in early format where you can be a little more creative with your teams, that he has shown his face here up on stream on the top tables. But we are going to go into the team preview right now. I can see on here, so Ben's team, as we have seen before, it likes Trick Room. It really likes Trick Room. Potential, I think, of him bringing the Milotic, because there's the Gyarados on the other side of the field. He wants to get that competitive boost. Do you think that we'll see either of the weathers from either of these teams?
Potentially, but William Tansley really must rely on his high offensive on his team to really make sure that Ben Kiriakou has no chance to stick up his Trick Room. But we are going to be bouncing into the game. We're going to be seeing the leads really, really soon, so give it up, you guys. Hashtag Play Pokemon, we will be reading that. And we are going to be jumping in. Right now, we are going to be seeing a lead of Katana and Gyarados from William Tansley's side. Meanwhile, Ben Kiriakou is going to send out his Hariyama and his Marowak.
Interesting choice from Ben there. We've got the fake-out potential on his side with the Hariyama. Marowak generally enjoying being in Trick Room, but we've not got a Trick Room setter on the field right now. Very, very offensive leads from both teams here, though. Very physically offensive leads. Yeah,
that's true. We were talking about physical offense earlier, but Gyarados is a brilliant lead from Will at this end because, you know, Hariyama has just had its damage reduced, Marowak has had its damage reduced, but the fake-out can prove to be dangerous to both Kartana and the Gyarados, especially as the Kartana we have seen on stream has been holding that Focus Sash.
Absolutely, but we've got Marowak switching straight out and coming in for Alola Ninetales. Alola Ninetales in that beautiful little love ball. It's going to use Snow Warning to set the hail up and potentially break the Kartana's Focus Sash.
Yeah, it is going to break this Focus Sash, and we do see the fake out onto the Kartana, so...
also breaking the Focus Sash.
The Focus Sash is going to break anyway, and the Kartana flinches.
Oh, but we see a Dragon Dance from Gyarados. Dragon Dance is probably Gyarados' most popular set at the moment. It's a Pokemon that's been known for running a whole variety of sets, but Dragon Dance is the one that has shone in this early format. Here we see the hail, chip damage coming in, and... bringing us into turn 2.
This is a fantastic position for William. You know, Ben did go for the fake out and for a defensive, well, not necessarily defensive, but a switch that he thought was necessary to make. Ninetales, I believe, was carrying a Focus Sash as we saw in turns before.
Absolutely.
But it really becomes, I think it really becomes a question of who William decides to double target.
I think that's true, yeah. It's, as we know, like the Ninetales is holding a Focus Sash. If Will wants to take it down this turn, it does need to be double targeted. At the same time, it is fairly speedy. Ben might be looking to get his Aurora Veil up at this point, but we see Gigalith coming out now to replace that the hail with the sand and prevent Ben's attempts if he was trying to set up Aurora Veil.
Yeah, it's a really good play, but he does risk a little bit of close comeback coming out, but the Hariyama does switch out anyway, so not quite mattering quite as much in favour of that Kartana that takes no damage from the hail. Well, Gyarados goes for a simple Protect.
Gyarados going for the Protect, and we'll have to see Ninetales went for the Blizzard attack. Gyarados protecting itself there, and the Blizzard coming into the Gigalith slot. Not going to do a great amount of damage now that sand is up. Thankfully it actually connected, which it wasn't guaranteed to do once the hail went down, but at least Ben got some damage off instead of wasting the turn attempting to Aurora Veil.
I believe that was actually a 50% chance to actually happen, but Gyarados did protect. It is still in a fantastic position. Kartana now has its Focus Sash, so Ben did maybe he predicted the Sandstorm switch because the hail wouldn't have helped him much in this situation at all. But yeah, I can't really tell which of these players has got the better position at the moment. I think a Rock Slide from Gigalith is going to be, you know, telling, but the Kartana is too dangerous for that Leaf Blade.
Yeah, I think that was a really good switch from Ben, that now that the sand's up, as you say, his own hail would have damaged his own Focus Sash. Bringing Kartana and attacking with Ninetales as the Gigalith switched in, that's actually put him in a better position than he would have been if he had tried to make the slightly more obvious play, potentially, and attempt to use the Aurora Veil. But now we see Ninetales switching out, and we see Hariyama coming back in, potentially to apply a bit more of that fake-out pressure, or do some of its own damage now that it doesn't have the Intimidate up. But Gigalith is also going to switch out. It's a revolving door of Pokemon, ladies and gentlemen, and Alolan Raichu is coming in just to give us all a little bit of a smile. Here we see the Hydro Vortex coming out from Will Tansley's Gyarados. Which one is it going to be targeting down? Will it be that Kartana, or will it be the newly switched in Hariyama?
Yeah, we are going to see the Hydro Vortex coming out with the Dragon Dance boost. It's probably going to knock out either one of these Pokemon, but we do see it target the Kartana, thinking that the Kartana isn't the one holding a Focus Sash because I believe it was the Ninetales, and it goes down. It takes it so well, but with both of these switches, the Leaf Blade does go onto the Gyarados. Do we see a critical hit? We do not see a critical hit, but with both players do have the fake out pressure right now, but I think the fake out advantage has gone to William Tansley with the faster Raichu.
Definitely. So he will have to think about here. Does he fake out because Hariyama could it potentially knock out Gyarados with a fake out from this point? I think it probably could. So Raichu, there's a potential for Gyarados protecting here and Raichu using the fake, and Raichu getting its own fake out off. If Gyarados is not protecting, Raichu probably wants to fake out Hariyama just to make sure that the Gyarados actually stays alive in order to use its own move. Kartana, of course, is obviously a threat. Kartana can do hefty damage to the Raichu if it's staying in, or it could just take off the last little chip of that Gyarados. So I think it's really important what these... I mean, it's always important. It's going to be very crucial to see what these players do here now and trying to see and thinking through what the safe play is and what the other player is going to be doing.
Yeah, and these players are, there's so much on the line right here. We see the Hariyama switching out, knowing that the fake out pressure isn't going to be very applicable, especially with the Raichu on the field. The Marowak does switch in, which is going to be able to protect itself against the Raichu quite well. And a fake out onto the Marowak target. But we also see a waterfall onto Kartana. Does it knock out? It doesn't knock out. The Kartana hangs on, goes to the lead blade, will knock out the Gyarados.
We saw Ben smiling, Will head in his hands. He didn't want to see that. That was an incredibly clutch call there from Kartana. Hang on, 2 HP!
Yeah, 2 HP. That is very, very lucky on Ben Kiriaku's end.
Very lucky indeed.
The Marowak does switch in. This Kartana is so physically bulky. Like even the Dragon Dance after the Hydro Vortex and the Waterfall, it could not knock this Kartana out. That Kartana really loves Ben, I think.
I think it does, yeah. I think it's very fond of him. It's almost like he's had it in the, when you have it in the Pokemon Refresh and it says, your Pokemon hung on for you so you wouldn't be sad. Pokemon Refresh, of course, not having any effect in competitive play, and potentially this is the reason why. But now we have Will Tansley's own Kartana on the field. We saw the Raichu has lost its fake out, otherwise it could probably use it to take down the Kartana at this point, but we saw the Marowak switching in to take that and be pleasantly unaffected. Marowak's got a little bit of chip damage on it now and could quite happily deal a hefty amount of damage to either of those opposing Pokemon on Will Tansley's side.
Yeah, that's true, and Marowak could be a double target as well. But we do see the Raichu just simply protecting, a little bit of a safe play, while the Kartana is going to go for this Smart Strike onto the other Kartana, winning the speed tie. Do we see, depending on who Ben Kiriaku targets, this might change the course of the battle, because he does have the advantage. Does he target the Kartana, or does he target the Raichu?
Yes, did he go for that fire move on the Kartana? He went for a Shadow Bone on the Raichu, and that is a shame to see for Ben Kiriaku, but well done on Will Tansley's side for protecting the correct Pokemon there.
Yeah, that's brilliantly done. He does race to protect on the Raichu right there, but I think that's pretty much very, very much worth it. But do we see the Ninetales switch back in for Ben Kiriaku? No, we do see the Hariyama wanting that fake-out pressure. I believe that Raichu is a very, very nice fake-out target right now.
It is indeed. Obviously Hariyama doesn't want to stay in if the Raichu is not being faked out, because that Raichu can do some hefty psychic damage to Hariyama. But just having that additional little fake out pressure, which is probably going to... I mean, maybe it's a bit too obvious at this point. Perhaps Will would see it coming, but the Raichu has protected. So if it doesn't want to get faked out, it would have to switch out.
Yeah, if it does switch out, we have seen a Gigalith in the back, and it might be able to take a fighting move than Hariyama, but the Hariyama is so strong, and even if it doesn't quite get the KO, I believe Marowak will be able to finish it off. Ben Kiriaku doesn't seem extremely sure about what the play is. He does nod about the Raichu switching out, and the Gigalith does come back in again.
Now we'll have to see what Ben has done here. He's actually switched out the Hariyama, and he has brought in his Alolan Ninetales to replace the Sand with the Hail. That was a good call on Ben's part.
That was brilliantly done, but with the Ninetales already having lost its Focus Sash, it is going to be a nice Smart Strike target, but we are going to see the Kartana just protecting from that Marowak, which is going to go for the Flare Bits onto that slot.
Poor Marowak, he just wants to attack something. Being denied all over the place here. But we see the little bit of chip damage coming in here from the Hail. Who do you think is in the better position here, Matt?
Oh, it really depends on the speed on the speed read. I believe the Ninetales is faster than the Kartana. The Gigalith might want to switch back out again to get the Sand up again. The Kartana is also in a dangerous position itself. The Ninetales might protect. The Marowak is definitely not protecting. I think the Marowak is definitely going to go for some sort of move, at least try and target one of the Pokemon or catch William Tansley's Raichu on the switch.
Yeah, I think he'd very much like to do that. It's interesting seeing there's so many factors to control on the field in this metagame. You've got to control the weather, you want to be control Trick Room, the terrains. There's so many things to consider. Tailwind when we see it from the occasional Pelipper or Aerodactyl that we saw in day 2. There's a lot of factors to consider.
Yeah, but we are going to see these. William Tazzy going to take a little bit of time to make this move because he is in a bad position. The Marowak is super dangerous at this point, but we just see the simple Leaf Blade onto the Marowak. It's not going to quite knock out. What do we see from the Ninetales? We do see a Blizzard, and I think it comes down to what this Cubone does. Marowak, Blizzard knocks out the Kartana because Kartana's really low special defense, and we see the Boomerang. Is it enough to knock out the Gigalith? I believe it will be. So Ben Kiriakou, I believe he's going to be taking the first game of this set. Oh, Gigalith does faint. Marowak is buffeted by the hail, but we only have the Raichu in the back. Even though the Raichu does have the fake out pressure, I don't think it can deal with the Marowak, the Ninetales, and the Hariyama in the back, especially with the Hariyama's fake outs.
Yes, indeed. I think this is probably going to Ben. It's been very close up until this point, but Ben has managed to pull it back with that double knockout there. Raichu could potentially fake out the Ninetales. Yeah, there we go. Will choosing to protect some of his own information, save some of the time for the next match, and simply forfeit on the spot.
Yeah, I don't think information is too much of a problem at this point because both of these players have been on stream and they probably have been studying each other right now because they know what their matchup was going to be and how to approach each matchup. I think Ben played that one perfectly. You know, he didn't rely on Trick Room, so I think maybe Will was considering Trick Room maybe a little bit too much. Maybe he was worried too much about that. And then Ben, didn't even use Trick Room, he just went offensive.
He did, yes. It's not just, of course, it's not just the information that's important at this point. In this format, we do have the round timer to consider. Some players go for an early match format in order to allow themselves more time for the next match because we have 50 minutes to complete all of the entire set in. So Will Tansley potentially thinking, you know what, I haven't got this game, I'm going to save some time and allow myself more time to try and make a comeback.
Yeah, that's true. And to recap on these teams yet again, Ben Kiriakou has a team of Milotic, Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Marowak, Kartana, Hariyama, and Oranguru, while William Tansley has a team of Tapu Koko, Porygon 2, Kartana, Gigalith, Alolan Raichu, and Gyarados.
Yes, indeed. Do we think we could be seeing the Trick Room coming out from Ben's side this time, or do you reckon he was right not to bring it first time?
Well, I think he didn't bring it solely for the mind games. If he does bring it and William Tansley doesn't consider it, we could be seeing a very swift game from Ben Kiriakou indeed.
Yes, we have seen in Ben's previous streamed matches how quickly and convincingly he can take down an opponent when he does get Trick Room up and it's not prepared for. Will Tansley, though, of course, he will know that Ben has that Trick Room option. He's probably seen by this point the previous stream matches, and I'm sure it's in the back of his mind. But we see again Gyarados leading to get that Intimidate off. We've got Kartana and we see Hariyama and Ninetales on Ben's side.
Yeah, and I think Ben, I think this is the exact same lead we saw in the last side. I think William Tansley would want to switch in the Gigalith in this time round, but if he did that last turn, maybe Ben Kiriakou could punish it by going for the close combat on the switch. The Intimidate does apply onto the Hariyama. I believe it was a Marowak in the Ninetales slot though, now that I remember correctly.
I think it was, yeah. But yeah, the Kartana doesn't really want, unless it thinks it can do some hefty damage this time round, especially knowing there's the potential for the Marowak in the background, it could want to switch out, but we see the Gyarados switching out and the Gigalith coming in on the Gyarados side instead to set the sand up.
Yeah, I think that was a great play by William Tansley. He might be just protecting the Kartana to make sure he doesn't get faked out. Yeah, we do see the protect there. If we see a close combat onto that slot, I wouldn't blame him. But we do see the freeze shot onto the Gigalith. It's not going to do too much damage, especially with that big... Oh, but we see the freeze! We see the freeze! And that Gigalith is now unable to move. That is very crucial right here. Wow, that is heartbreaking for William Tansley. I mean, like the Gigalith, it's so specially bulky, especially when it's in the sandstorm, but nothing can protect it from freezes except for Lumberry.
And Gigalith does not usually run a Lumberry. Well, I know we've seen some surprises in this particular weekend, but Lumberry Gigalith is not one we would have witnessed. Gigalith now has to be very cautious. Having a frozen Pokemon is like having dead weight on your team. The Gigalith's ability will still activate, so he can still switch it out and use it to set sand back up later on. He hasn't been using it that much to attack anyway, so that is a consideration. It's not a completely useless Pokemon to him at this point, but he has to consider, is it enough? Yeah, well, there we see. He is going to switch it out so he can still set sand up later on, bringing out Gyarados, which is a really good call on his part. Ben doesn't look happy. Really good call on that switch and reducing that Kartana's attack.
On the one side, Ben does like this position a little bit because it has allowed him to switch in the critical hit on the Leaf Blade. And we do see a Z move. Oh, we're going to have to finish that train of thought later, as we do see, is that an all-out pummeling of the Hariyama? Oh wow, that's going to target something. He's not happy about who he's targeted. I think
No,
it
he
might
is
be into
not
that
a happy
Kartana.
bunny.
I believe it might be in that Kartana, and it's going to activate the focus sash. Do we see it in the Gyarados slot? Excellent switch by William Tansley. Absolutely excellent. It does nothing.
Gonna
Wow.
do so little damage. The Intimidate reducing it, and the not very effective. That is a shame for Ben, but that was such a good switch on William Tansley's part, just to get that additional reduction of damage there.
Yeah, some payback, I suppose, from that freeze there. Great switching by the Gyarados. I think Ben did switch out his Ninetales because he knew exactly what William could do with the Gigalith in the back, so he did consider that option in the future. But this did not work out for him, as both the Kartana and the Hariyama have lost so much physical presence, and especially with that Z-Crystal gone on the Hariyama.
Yes, indeed, and we see Ben's own Kartana winning the speed tie that time round and getting some damage off from the Gyarados. And Will's Kartana coming in with the Sacred Sword. Ben surviving it, and the Gyarados using Waterfall just to, it looks like it's going to finish off the Hariyama. But both of Ben's Pokemon were on such low HP at that point, it didn't really matter who the Gyarados targeted.
It is true. The Hariyama did go down, which means it wasn't able to move that turn. But this might come down to the Kartana speed tie yet again. It's not a nice position for either one of these players. So the Ninetales does come back in. I think a Gigalith switch-in wouldn't be unwelcome for William Tansley at this end, especially to preserve the Intimidate on the Gyarados yet again, since the Kartana has taken already a attack drop.
Indeed, yes, but I'm not as you say, it depends partly on who wins this speed tie. The Kartana is going to faint if it takes any more attacks, pretty much of whatever attack it takes. The Intimidate would be beneficial in case he thinks he might lose the speed tie and take some damage, his additional damage on his own Kartana, but I don't think Ben would be able to knock out Will's Kartana this time anyway, especially because we have seen it has a focus sash.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, the hail damage can, help out on that thing, but the Gyarados is going to withdraw in favour of the Gigalith. It's going to switch in and set up the Sandstream again. It is frozen, so it won't be able to move 75% of the time every single turn. The Sandstorm does come out, and the Kartana avoids the Blizzard. The Gigalith avoids the Blizzard as well. It's 50-50, he's paying back again, and we see a Smart Strike target onto the Ninetales. It's going to knock that thing straight out. Meanwhile, Ben can do whatever he wants with his Kartana, but I don't think he's knocking anything out, especially with the Beast Boost on the Kartana just activating right now. And we see a Night Slash. I think he was trying to call a switch out, I think.
Yeah, potentially thinking Will was going to switch out for the Raichu there, but it was not to be, and Ben is not in a good position right now. He's not got his fake out pressure anymore, he's not able to control the weather anymore, he's brought his own Marowak in, but I think Will is in a very, very strong position right now.
Yeah, that's true, especially if that Gigalith unthaws right now. The Kartana is the obvious target, but the Gigalith, if it unthaws, it can Rock Slide, knock out the Kartana, do hefty damage to that Marowak. So I think William Tansley really has played this one perfectly, despite the frozen heartbreak.
Well, Gigalith's main purpose is, of course, as a weather setter. If anything's going to get frozen, you probably want it to be your Gigalith.
Yeah,
but there we see the handshake, we saw the Kartana going down. Will's own Kartana is now at double attack, but it's probably not going to matter too much at this point. Boomerang coming in from Ben's Marowak, just to get a little bit of damage on the Gigalith before this match is over.
That's true. Though we see the Gigalith unthaw, not quite, but the match is over, especially with the 2 Beast Boosts that William Tansley's Kartana has just picked up.
Yes, indeed, and this is Ben's last Pokemon, I believe, so he's going to have to think.
Quite sure, yep.
Is there anything he can do here? I think
nope.
No.
I really don't think so, especially because I believe the Kartana on William Tansley's side is also holding the Night Slash, but we just see the Leaf Blade maybe not quite wanting to reveal if it does have the Night Slash or not. It's going to do okay damage to the Marowak. The Marowak can go for the Shadow Bone. It's not going to do much in the long run, especially if the Kartana takes it. Yeah, it's over.
And the Gigalith thaws out.
It thaws out just to add a cherry on top for William Tansley.
Potentially going for the Shadow Bone over the Flare Blitz there, just in case the recoil damage would have cost him an extra turn, but at the end it didn't matter. Will Tansley takes the second game, and we are going to go into Game 3 of this UK showdown in the first match of the top 8.
Yeah, both games have been absolutely dominating performance. Ben Kiriakou still not relying on his Trick Room, which might be because he's scared of that Gigalith, but if the Gigalith gets frozen, there's nothing really to be scared about.
Don't be scared of Gigalith. It's got the word giggle in its name. No, sorry, this is the terrible British humour coming back out, which I know some people on Twitter are not entirely impressed with, but this is a London tournament. You're getting the London humour, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think we could see Ben thinking, maybe I need to switch things up, maybe bring the Trick Room? I'm sorry, Matt.
Yes, sorry, broken me a little bit. I'm sorry about that, but we are going to be jumping into our game 3 right now. And to recap, yet again, Ben Kiriakou has a Milotic, Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Marowak, Kartana, Hariyama, and Oranguru, while William Tansley is running a team of Tapu Koko, Porygon 2, Kartana again, Gigalith, Alolan Raichu, and Gyarados.
So we've actually seen identical teams both times from both of these players. Ben hasn't brought his Milotic or his Oranguru, and Will has not been bringing his Tapu Koko or his Porygon 2. Potentially we might see a switch up there, since both players in their actual games were pretty convincing in their wins. I wonder if we're going to see any switching up here, see if either player brings their Trick Room setup?
I don't think so. I think William Tansley is very, very happy with his Gigalith as a Trick Room counter, as long as it doesn't get frozen. But as you said earlier, if it gets frozen, it's not the end of the world, because it does still have a use when it is frozen. But we are going to be jumping into the game real soon. Give it up for Ben Kiriakou and William Tansley. Of course, always tweet at us with the hashtag #PlayPokemon, and we are going to be jumping into this game right now, and we are going to be seeing from William Tansley's end a lead of Kartana and Gyarados, getting yet again with the Intimidate lead, and now we see Hariyama Milotic. Great switch up by Ben Kiriakou.
So Will has used the same Intimidate lead. Ben wondered if he was going to use the Intimidate and went for the risk. He's brought his Milotic, and that Milotic is going to get the competitive boost, raising its special attack sharply, and now we have an offensive threat in the presence of Milotic on the field. It still doesn't want to be taking any Leaf Blades from the Kartana, of course.
Not at all.
But this is a good mix-up, I think, from Ben's side.
Yeah, that's true. With Fake Out pressure and Milotic pressure right now, William Tansley has to choose really which Pokemon to protect. We might be seeing a protect from the Kartana, but then again, does he really risk taking a move from Gyarados? I wouldn't be surprised to see a double protect, but Ben Kiriakou could punish this with a switch to an even better position.
He could potentially. Even if Kartana does protect, the Gyarados and Milotic probably wouldn't do too much damage to each other. Milotic will have its Ice Beam, but there's not potential for either of them doing too much damage to each other, so it really does depend on who protects and who doesn't this turn, and whether we see the Fake Out. We see the Fake Out, no protecting. Fake Out onto the Gyarados slots.
And a straight Leaf Blade onto the Milotic. Can we see a critical hit? The game is over. It's a no, it's not a critical hit. The game is not over. It takes it with 8 HP remaining. The Citrus Berry is going to recover it. It's still going to be in Leaf Blade range. The Gyarados starts flinch, and we see an Ice Beam, maybe trying to call something on the switch. Do we see a freeze? Not quite, but it does go down to the Focus Sash. Wow.
That was
competitive
huge.
Boost. Wow.
That was a really good call on Will's part to not protect the Kartana there. Ben presumably predicting that he would, that's why he went for the Fake Out on the Gyarados. We did see Gyarados winning the speed tie there with Milotic, if indeed they are actually running the same speed investment. But that was incredibly close. I can't believe that Milotic survived.
Yeah, such a risky call from William Tansley to not protect his Kartana, and it really worked out for him. The Ice Beam did go into the Kartana. I really don't know why Ben Kiriakou went for the Fake Out on the Gyarados. I think it might have been to cover his options, not going for a 2-ball of a prediction, but we do see Hariyama switching out in favour of the Ninetales. It is going to be able to knock out the Kartana with the Hail at the end of the turn, unless we see the Kartana switch out. But if the Milotic is protecting, this might be a bad position for Will.
Yeah, I think we're probably going... We do not see a protect from the Milotic, and we see Kartana's own Leaf Blade coming to take out the Milotic slots.
Wow, very, very risky by William Tansley, and it's paying out. The Beast Boost is not going to matter anymore because of the Hail, and we see a Dragon Dance from the Gyarados. Absolutely excellent playing by William Tansley.
Yes, indeed, the Kartana is about to go down, but it's done its job. It's taken out that boosted Milotic that Ben brought in to counter the Gyarados switch in. Kartana goes down, and Gyarados is going to be facing off against Ninetales with whichever Pokemon these players choose to bring in on their respective sides.
Yeah, I believe we might be either seeing a Gigalith from William Tansley or the Fake Out pressure from the Raichu to counteract the Fake Out pressure from the Hariyama. No doubt the Hariyama will come back in. And we do see the Raichu for that Fake Out pressure. And we do see the Kartana. Okay, fair enough then.
Potentially thinking the Gigalith was going to be coming in there. We've got the Fake Out pressure, as you say, from Raichu now. Ninetales would like to get his Aurora Veil up, but potentially we might see a Fake Out from the Raichu and a switch out from the Gyarados into the Gigalith to prevent the Ninetales using Aurora Veil. At the same time, that didn't work out well last time it happened, so maybe we won't see that from Will Tansley this time around. The Gyarados does have a Dragon Dance up and can do heavy damage to anything it chooses to stay in an attack against. On Ben's side, we know that his Kartana is not holding the Focus Sash, so we'll have to see whether... I think the important thing here is where the Fake Out goes, whether the Aurora Veil goes up, and who attacks who. because we have two very strong physical presences on the field right now.
Yeah, that's true. And the Kartana, we did see, took that Hydro Vortex so well. It took a Hydro Vortex and a Waterfall, so William Tanzi is not in the greatest position, but he does go for the fake out onto the Ninetales. The Gyarados does go for the Waterfall onto the Kartana slot, maybe hoping for a flinch. It puts it just about into range of the Hydro Vortex, maybe, but we do see a Night Slash onto Raichu. It is going to knock it straight out.
It's a quite unusual coverage move there on Ben's Kartana, going into the Raichu, potentially 4 Raichu matchups. It goes into the Raichu. It does give Kartana some options against the Lola Marowak as well. That might be another reason he's running it. And we see the Raichu going down.
Yeah, that's true. The Kartana does take hail damage, and this hail damage, the more it stacks up, the more likely Hydro Vortex is going to be able to pick up the KO at one point, because we have seen the Waterium Z-Crystal on William Tansley's Gyarados. But we do see the Gigalith switching in right now, preventing any sorts of Blizzard shenanigans, and a Rock Slide is going to be so dangerous right now.
Yeah, definitely. Neither of Ben's Pokemon want to be taking the Rock Slide, especially. Kartana, like Gigalith still doesn't want to be taking any attacks from Kartana, whether it's Leaf Blade or a Sacred Sword. But we have seen Gyarados. I'm not sure if the Kartana is in the Waterium Z range right now, but it has Dragon Danced up. I'm not sure if Kartana would be able to tank it or not. The Ninetales, not sure what the Ninetales is going to be doing at the moment, and we might see it switch out for the Hariyama to get that fake out back.
Yeah, the fake out back and the hail back, but we don't see a switch. We see a Waterfall straight onto the Ninetales. It is going to knock it straight out, so we do see William Tanzi winning the final weather war of this set, and we do see a Leaf Blade onto the Gyarados. Do we see a critical hit? We do! I believe that is a critical hit, and it's not a critical hit. It knocks out the Gyarados straight up.
Kartana's just very strong.
The Beast Boost, I forgot. And we're going to see an Earthquake, a single target Earthquake onto the Kartana. It's going to do a decent bit of damage, hopefully half of what it has remaining, and it does drop down to 34 HP.
And there we see a handshake right there. That was a good turn from both players. These two are of course good friends. It's always difficult to face off against a friend, especially when you're from the same country in a top 8 match in single elimination. But we see Ben's Hariyama coming back in now. He's got his fake out pressure, and it's just down to 2 fighting types against a rock type. It's not looking great for Will right now.
Not at all. Ben has played this one perfectly. Gigalith has been too crucial in the anti-Trick Room matchup. He is so ecstatic. He is back. He has won 2 national championships ages ago, essentially, at this point. But right now, he is back, and he's back with a bang, really.
He is. We see Ben Kiriako moving on into the top 4.
And if Tui is going to maybe adapt the playstyle a little bit, he may go for a quick lockdown to like 2 or 3 Pokemon. He probably tries to take out one of Nico's Pokemon as soon as possible to get ahead with a fast Draco Meteor or a Draconium Sap move, and this may lock it down for later on. He can do defensive switching a lot then. This might be clutch. I guess he's trying to go for Salaman's app, obviously, because he really can fire off strong moves, and Nico just got Tapu Lele having an immunity to Draco Meteor, and Celesteela resisting Draco Meteor, but obviously there's Magnezone who threatens both of them.
Yeah, Magnezone is definitely going to be key. We did see yesterday with the Tapu Bulu and the grassy terrain and the leftovers, it was able to set up substitutes and recover so much health. It was absolutely not a great time for Alex Gomez, who did lose in that final game. But we do see a lead of Tapu Bulu and Politoed from Tobias Kujitski's end, while Arcanine and Tapu Lele lead for Davide.
That is very interesting. This is like, both players thought about this matchup pretty much the whole night, I guess, and both players made a game plan to how do I beat the other one, how do I get my game plan through, and those 2 leads are what they came up with. Tapu Bulu Politoed is, well, actually a pretty good lead for Tobias' side. I do not know, Matteo, have we had Nico Davide on stream yet? Is the item on Tapu Lele?
No, this is the very first time, but we did see the Tapu Lele's ability activate first, so this might indicate just about it being a choice scarf like we've seen so many Tapu Lele's carry. The Arcanine is threatened a little bit by that Politoed, but it does want to get a move off from that Tapu Bulu, but the rain might just prevent that.
Yeah, the Politoed is I guess this game is just for let's see how much damage that Tapu Lele deals to my Pokemon, like to Politoed, to Magnezone, etc. And then we can see if he's free to fire off those skulls, and we see a
Psyche from the Tapu Lele. It's going to be targeting something. Without the psychic terrain, it's not going to be too much damage, but it's definitely confirming that it's not a choice scarf, which means we've got a very bulky Arcanine on the field. We do see the Shatter Psyche targeting that Magnezone correctly. The Magnezone is going to resist that, and it's going to take not very much damage without the psychic terrain, but it does about half. This might be quite big, especially with the flamethrower. If it goes off into the Magnezone, does it knock out? It's going to be so close. It's going to be so close, but not quite. Not quite. And we see the Encore onto the Arcanine, but that doesn't quite work out for Tobias, especially if he's scared of the Magnezone being knocked out by another flamethrower.
Yeah. Well, the Encore is kind of interesting. I think Toby didn't expect a flamethrower to come out. Or on the other hand, maybe he got something different in the back to abuse a safe switch in, but Tapu Lele threatens a potential Salamence switch in, so he doesn't want to switch in the Salamence in that spot neither, so he just probably is going for a protect. Yeah. And being free to Scald in one of Nico's slots that Arcanine doesn't want to stay in there.
Exactly. I think there's no safer play for Tobias than to protect Magnezone and to target the Arcanine with the Scald, because if the Arcanine stays in, it takes a Scald, and if it switches out, the Magnezone is no longer threatened.
Yeah, I really like we can see both game plans already, that Arcanine is brought to the matchup to take out that Magnezone as soon as possible.
Yeah, great switch from Nico right here. The Gastrodon coming in favor, but we don't see the Scald. Tobias playing that one brilliantly. Yeah. The Intimidate is going to come out. David doesn't quite have an expression on his face right now, but we do see the Magnezone protecting just in case. Both a prediction and it was both predictive and safe for Tobias, but we do see the Psychic onto the Salamence. Thankfully, it was not a Moonblast.
You're right. Oh, that's really interesting. Tobias just wants to have his Magnezone getting recovery as soon as possible, to still being able to dish a huge amount of damage to Tapu Lele, but now we get Gastrodon and Tapu Lele on the field, threatening both of Tobias's Pokemon. That Politoed doesn't want to take too much damage until the Gastrodon is finally out to take that Arcanine out. So it's really interesting to see both game plans. They probably got 3 of them for every match and for every mode they're seeing in each match, and it's interesting. Like, Nico really got the upper hand right now, dealing so more damage than Tobias, and this is huge, because Tobias cannot lock down the game until he takes out 2 Pokemon.
Yes, and we do see the devastating Drake on the Salamence. The Gastrodon has not protected yet, so maybe we're going to see the Gastrodon take that devastating Drake quite badly. Tobias is wondering if this is going to be, he's not looking extremely happy right now. Drago Schianto Finale into the Gastrodon slot. It's going to do so much damage. No protect from the Gastrodon. Does it knock out? Not quite. 44, and we see the Citrus Berry. I don't think, unless we see an HP, Hidden Power Grass on the Magnezone, I don't think we can see this Gastrodon go down, but we do see the Psychic onto the Magnezone slot. Is it going to knock out? Not quite, but with a Scald, it will be the end. And we see a Thunderbolt onto the Tapu Lele, and it's not going to even knock it out into the 50%, but we do see a Scald onto the Magnezone, finishing it off.
This is huge. Nico Davide really prepared the field well. He got the upper hand right now. Tobias cannot play that defensively anymore. His Pokemon have taken damage. I guess it's now up for him to scout how much damage do my Pokemon take from Nico's attacks, and just in game plan later on. Though the Bulu is really threatening for Nico, and yeah, he really wants to get that Arcanine in safely. But Salamence is still there, and maybe getting some Draco Meteors off, and that Arcanine may switch into that Tapu Lele slot. Matteo, what do you think?
Yeah, the Gastrodon is definitely key, but the Tapu Lele does switch out in favor of the Arcanine. The Gastrodon isn't going to want to take a grass move from the Tapu Bulu unless he thinks the Gastrodon's job is done, but it's not, because the Politoed is in the back, so we're probably going to be seeing a Protect from the Gastrodon, or a simple switch out, a nice double switch from Nico Davide. little bit safe, especially if we do see a Draco Meteor onto that target. But we see a substitute from the Salamence. Nicely done by Tobias here. What do we see the Tapu Bulu do? We see a double substitute!
Oh, I love those plays. I love those plays. Toby really abused the double switch, though that was a really good double switch by Nico, and he brought Celesteela to the match. Though Toby got that Magnezone, but Nico really played it well. Taking out that Magnezone that early is really huge for a Celesteela to stand around, because Salamence doesn't do that much damage in range to Celesteela, nor does Tapu Bulu once Celesteela got a sub up and it can get Leech Seed by Tapu Bulu and stuff. This is like, Nico really played it well, and this turn Tobias tried to have some positives out of it.
Yeah, I think Tobias at this time might want to just scout a little bit, but we do just see the Draco Meteor, I believe, or is that, yeah, it's a Draco Meteor onto the Arcanine, trying to get as much damage onto it as possible. Well, meanwhile, we see the Arcanine go for, well, before we see the special attack drop on the Salamence because of Jack, we do see the Roar. Oh no, that's Snarl going through this substitute. The Salamance's special attack is going to reduce even more, with the Tapu Bulu taking a little bit of damage. The special attack drop isn't too big, but what are we going to see here? We are going to see a Leech Seed onto the Arcanine from that Tapu Bulu slot. I don't think Tobias is extremely happy with that, especially after we see this Heavy Slam going to that Tapu Bulu substitute and probably breaking it.
Yeah. Whew. Tough situation. Tobias obviously wanna get rid of one or two Pokemon as soon as possible to maybe get the Paris song up later on with. Yeah, it's his way to win it, but that's really hard. That's really hard. He has to. He's in the defensive game right now, that where he has to double protect now. Salamence doesn't want to take a Snarl. Tapu Bulu cannot do damage to Arcanine nor Celesteela, though it Leech Seeded Arcanine, but it's now in the position where it wants to protect, and he doesn't get off any offensive pressure right now. Yeah,
and Snarl is especially dangerous. I think that Salamence is in another range of another Snarl, and especially because it isn't doing much either. So Tobias can't even double switch. So I think Nico has played this one perfectly. Tobias was very, very afraid of that Gastrodon, switching out that Politoed when he did predict the Gastrodon switching. And we do see a protect from the Salamence, but at this, I think this is a good play. Wants to preserve the Salamence for a Draco Meteor later, and we do see a Flamethrower straight onto that Politoed. It's not going to be do too much damage. A Snarl would have been excellent here because he would have lost some special attack onto the Politoed, but we do see a Heavy Slam onto the Politoed. It's not going to do very much. Politoed is really going to be showing its bulk. I believe that was quite more, yeah, that was a critical hit. That's so unfortunate for Tobias, but he's going to be able to recover at least a little bit with the Leech Seed.
Yeah. Now this is really interesting, but that the Salamence already used Draco Meteor, right? So it got a special attack dropped, and then
by 3 stages.
By 3 stages because it got Snarled, so it cannot take out probably that Arcanine. That's hard for Toby to recover from this position. Nico Davide is just basically free to do some defensive switches to keep his Pokemon as healthy as possible. The Salamence goes down to the next attack Nico is going to launch in it. Let it be Snarl, let it be some chip damage later on if Tobias decides to switch it into Arcanine and Celesteela. I don't know, maybe because Nico probably want to see the Gastrodon somewhere, but not this turn.
We do see this Draco Meteor. It is at -3 stages of the special attack. Will it be enough to KO the Arcanine? It's not quite enough. So we are so frustrated. That Snarl is really big, and we do see it being at -5 right now. And we see another Snarl. It is going to knock out the Salamence and bring the Politoed down to a loss of special attack stage. We do see the Scald onto the Politoed slot, but a little too late.
Yeah. Toby is now down to 2 Pokemon, and Celesteela is still big with that Gastrodon sitting next to it. And Celesteela decides to go for a Heavy Slam instead of a Leech Seed. Politoed eating its Citrus Berry to get some health back, and
Yeah.
This is a tough situation for Tobias now.
It's so tough, but he has learned a little bit from his mistakes this game. Magnezone went down a little bit too easily. Nico has just learned about the citrus berry and the polytoad, which might be important information for in later games, but Tobias definitely needs to switch up his game plans. But we do see that with the Tapu Lele in the back, the psychic terrain isn't going to be up. Instead, the grassy terrain is going to be up. So maybe Tobias can just about claw back out from this one. Maybe?
Well, the psychic still does a lot, and there's still potential to switch Tapu Lele out. Celesteela wants to deal some big damage on Tapu Bulu. Tapu Lele can just go for a protect, for example. Celesteela cannot be encored into Leech Seed, so that Tapu Bulu fears the Heavy Slam. Tapu Lele is just basically free to protect, to switch out next turn, to not getting encored into protect, and Celesteela is free to go for Heavy Slams, and Politoed might fish for some Scald Burns on that Celesteela, huh?
Yeah, and we do see the Scald onto the Celesteela here. We see a burn. This could be huge. Don't see it, but we do see we see the whole nature onto the Tapu Lele, and the Celesteela does go for the substitutes. Tobias, he looks excited. I think he might have spotted himself a win condition.
Yeah, absolutely. This now really comes down to predictions. That's what I like about those Top Cup matches.
I think I know what his win condition is if he has been working with Mr. Lyo Voltastov on this team, which I believe he has. And if you remember round 2 of day 1 Swiss, I believe we saw a tech on a Politoad that did win Lyo the game. But we do see the psychic onto Tapu Bulu. It's so bulky, and we see the encore onto the Celesteela. Tobias is super happy. I think he spotted this win condition. I think he spotted the exact same win condition that I have. I think he's going to take this game because the Tapu Lele is going to go down to the Hornage. We have seen the Gastrodon in the back. Tapu Bulu is going to recover so much health, and with what's absolutely brilliantly done by Tobias.
That was really huge. That encore into substitute. Now Gastrodon has to come in. Bulu is free to take it out. There we see how good of a player Tobias is. Coming back from, like, he was standing to the wall.
Position.
Yeah, and he played his way back so brilliant. Now Nico is just down to Celesteela Gastrodon. Tapu Bulu is free to attack that Gastrodon.
Yeah, that is true. But we do still have a condition with protects. If the Gastrodon protects and maybe gets a double protect, this might be a little bit. But we do see the forfeit from Nico. And who forfeited it out? Did Nico forfeit?
Yeah,
Nico did forfeit. And Toby came back excellently.
Yeah.
Incredible play by Tobias.
That was huge. That Tobias being able to encore that Celesteela into the substitute Celesteela then couldn't do any damage at all.
I believe that substitute might have been a mistake. It's the only way really for Toby. The only way Toby has of beating that Celesteela is that Magnezone, which is admittedly an amazing way to deal with Celesteela, but he did lose his Magnezone a little bit too quickly. So maybe Tobias is learning. He won that game, and he's got a lot to learn from it as well.
Yeah.
So second game, I believe Tobias is going to be jumping into that super excitedly. But Nico might have to learn about his substitute mistakes. Maybe didn't quite think about things like the encore.
Yeah, but you are really on fire when you're sitting on the chair being casted. You might get a bit nervous as well, especially if you're new to the scene, if you haven't had like this steep of a run in such a big tournament, and you're facing an opponent called Tobias Koshitsky, where we all know he's standing in front on the top of the CP list, and here comes the leads.
Yeah, I think Tobias Tobias has never won a major tournament, despite doing so well at every single tournament he goes to, and I think he just wants this big W, doesn't he?
Yeah, you're totally right. Well, I think the game plan Nico had was pretty good actually. He wanted to take out that Magnezone as soon as possible, and then Celesteela standing around, but Tobias adjusted so well after he lost that Magnezone so early. He thought, okay, I have to lock this down to Celesteela versus Axe and just knock out everything next to Celesteela, and then that's what we have seen from Wolfie as well a lot. He just didn't touch the Celesteela at all, knocked out the Pokemon next to Celesteela, ignored it because it didn't have any offensive presence towards the team, and that was really good play.
Yeah, excellently done by Tobias in that first game, and I believe this is such a good lead for Tobias again, leading with the exact same Pokemon and getting his grassy terrain up.
Yeah, he got his grassy terrain up, he got his rain up. That Politoed is threatening that Arcanine a lot. Tapu Lele though got like really strong psychic moves to throw around, but not without the terrain up. They are going to be not that damaging.
Yeah, that's true. And we do see a double protect from the Tapu Bulu and the Politoed. Do we see a Shattered Psyche? No, we just see a simple Psychic, very cleverly done by Nico, meaning he hasn't wasted his Equus. I think that's what Tobias was at least scouting for.
Yeah. The Bulu doesn't want to take that much damage. I'm not sure if it's a knockout, if Tapu Lele and Arcanine double up in that slot.
Especially in the rain.
Especially in the rain, but...
Yeah, I mean, Tapu Bulu doesn't want to take these attacks. It could hang on, but the critical hits are always a factor. We might see Tobias switching into his Magnezone again to take those moves, as we did see it take those moves in previous games. But the Psychic terrain not being there is so important. But we do see the Tapu Bulu switching out instead of the Magnezone, just like he did in Game 1.
Yeah. It's so clever having the Politoed next to the Tapu Bulu. Gastrodon doesn't want to switch into a Tapu Bulu at all, and this is such a clever lead from Tobias. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and we do see the Shattered Psyche activating on that Tapu Lele. We don't see any protects here, but without the Psychic terrain, it's not going to be doing quite as much damage as you'd want a Tapu Lele to do. We do see the Shattered Psyche onto that Magnezone. It's going to do about half like it did before, and a Flamethrower will not knock it out. And we see a Scald onto the Arcanine slot. This might be good.
Oh!
We see a critical hit!
Whoa!
No, that's heartbreaking for Tobias!
Taking out that Magnezone. Whoa. He assumed he can take it. We see the exact same game again, and then there's the critical hit on Magnezone, and now both players have to adapt to that. That's really unfortunate. That Politoed locked Arcanine into Flamethrower with the Encore, but
That is so frustrating for Tobias. With the Arcanine locked into Encore, he could have done the exact same play and, gotten the Scalds up, but maybe Tobias either wants to catch this Gastrodon on the switch, or he's going to go straight for the Arcanine and not fear anything, but I don't think that the Arcanine is going to stay in somehow.
Well, it might stay in, but I think it's really clever to just go for attacks like... Or he's just even trying to abuse some switches again with that substitute. That's always a clever play. Eases prediction a lot. Once you got up a substitute... Nobody's switching out, and maybe Tobias
looks
really...
happy. He looks happy, and we see the Flamethrower onto the Tapu Bulu. It's not going to do too much damage, especially in the rain. If we see a burn, this might change things a lot, but we don't see a drop. We see it Scald onto the Arcanine slot. Do we see it knock out? It doesn't do quite as much damage as you might hope, but we do see the leech lead onto that slot. Cleverly done by Tobias. Yeah. He's going to be taking so much recovery.
Yeah. Grassy terrain plus leech seed recovery plus... No leftovers, right?
No leftovers, no.
No leftovers. The Gastrodon again is free to Scald into the Arcanine slot, and again Niku doesn't really want to switch in that Gastrodon because there's a Tapu Bulu next to the Politoed. That's a good situation though. Although Tobias is down to 3 Pokemon, he got the offensive pressure right now from 2 more like a defensive Pokemon, and that's really clever. Having Tapu Bulu, Politoed standing there, Gastrodon cannot really switch in, because if Tobias gets early knockouts, then he can seal the game for later.
Yeah, and we do see the Tapu Lele switch out in favour of the Celesteela. Tobias, furrowing his brow a little bit there. The Celesteela is a little bit threatening. He does see the Flamethrower go into the Tapu Bulu again. It did impressive damage last time, despite the rain being up. We don't see a burn yet again, and we do see a simple Scald onto the Celesteela. He's hoping for a burn, and we don't get it. And we see the Horn Leech onto probably the the Celesteela slot. He's trying to catch the Gastrodon on the switch in.
Yeah.
But he does recover a little bit of health, and if you include the grassy terrain and Leech Seed recovery goes back to full, and maybe we might see the Tapu Lele switch back in for the terrain again.
Well, this was a good switch in from Nico. Tobias wanted to cover the Gastrodon switch in, but now it's a bit dangerous for Tapu Bulu. That tough situation for both players. Lots of mind games. We can see that Politoed scalding into the Arcanine slot, but that Celesteela threatens the Bulu though, and that's why you may wanna go after that one to scald it and protect the Bulu, and now Gastrodon got a free switch in.
Gastrodon is going to come in. Tobias doesn't look entirely happy over it. The Tapu Bulu does come out in favour of that assignment. I do agree with that play quite a bit. Because the Intimidate onto the Celesteela is decently big, especially because the Tapu Bulu doesn't want to take any of these moves. But here we do see a Scald, we just see a Protect, so
clever.
Very clever play and protective play by Tobias. And we see a Heavy Slam onto that slot. If we see a critical hit, this might be over, but we don't see the critical hit. It just goes down to about 65%.
Yeah, and the Protect on Politoed was clever. He wanted to see in which move may unlock Celesteela later on. And
he resets the grassy terrain as well. He'll have the chance to.
Yeah, he resets the grassy terrain later on. Rain is down, so Skull is not doing that much damage onto Celesteela. He cannot touch it anyhow. As long as Gastrodon is on the field, the Gastrodon's ability draws in every water type attack. Salamence, we now know that a Draco Meteor powered up by a Sac Crystal doesn't take out Gastrodon at all. It had pretty good chunk of health left, and we see a Protect from Salamence.
And we see a Encore onto the Heavy Slam for the Celesteela. It's not going to be able to do Celesteela thing by setting up Substitutes and setting up Leech Seeds. And we just see the Heavy Slam onto the Politoed. Maybe that was a Leech Seed target or something, but it's not going to do much damage at all. And we see an Ice Beam onto the Salamence slot. That is going to worry Tobias quite a bit. He's not happy about that.
I wouldn't be neither. That Tapu Bulu doesn't have a safe switch in now. It doesn't want to take a Heavy Slam plus Ice Beam. It probably even can't. And once Toby is down to just Politoed, Nico can lock the match by having Gastrodon on the field. Politoed cannot touch Gastrodon. Gastrodon is slower, so if Tobias decides to set a Paris song later on, Gastrodon goes down last and wins Nico the game. This is a pretty interesting situation that Nico did do better by not letting Tobias encore his Celesteela into a non-attacking move.
That's true, the Celesteela isn't a threat there, but we don't see it switch out either. We do see the Devastating Drake. It's going to activate. I think Toby is begging for a critical hit. We do see the Drago Schianto Finale, which is the Devastating Drake. It is going to target either that Celesteela or that Gastrodon, most likely the Gastrodon, as it is the threat on the field. We do not see a critical hit. It does a lot more damage than it did in the last turn. I believe it only dropped down to 44 last turn. But the Citrus Berry is going to let it recover quite a bit. And what do we see from here? We just see a Scald onto that slot. Maybe he was hoping that he was going to go for a prediction, but the Ice Beam is just going to knock out the after the Heavy Slam. If we do see the Ice Beam onto that slot, which I believe is most likely, especially to catch Bulu on the switch, yeah, I think that's the end for Salamence there. And yeah, I think Nico David's game plan was the exact same, but Tobias this time didn't spot his win conditions.
Yeah, well, though that early Magnuson takeout probably
mattered a lot, especially the critical hit.
And now Tobias wanted. A good player always knows his outs. Like Tobias was thinking, okay, if I get a critical hit and there is a certain percentage to get it, I can still win this game. But now it's pretty hard that Tapu Bulu can target the Gastrodon, but Nico still got 4 Pokemon left, and Tapu Bulu takes a huge amount of damage from the Heavy Slam from Celesteela. Politoed cannot do. Cannot Scald. Well, he can, but...
We see the Scald onto the Celestia slots, maybe just in case the Celestia does switch in. It can only heavy slam at this point. We do see the Tapu Bulu recover all of its health, getting rid of that Gastrodon. So it's not necessarily the worst of situations for Toby, but now without the rain, the Arcanine is going to be able to knock out that Tapu Bulu, especially after this heavy slam.
Yeah.
Wow, heartbreaking for Tobias. He needs to switch up his game plan. He only had a win condition the last time round because of, I guess, a mistake that Nico did. But yeah, this time Tobias has to think really if encoring a Celestia really is worth it.
He now knows how much damage that Draco Meteor does. He cannot take out that Gastrodon that fast. He cannot take out that bulky Arcanine that fast.
And with the Psychic Surge from the Tapu Lele, he's going to set up the Psychic Terrain, and the grassy terrain is gone, so now Tobias has also lost his health recovery options.
Yeah, I think maybe Tobias wants to switch up things, but Hariyama, he doesn't want to bring Hariyama to the third match, does he?
No, not really. I think Nico has been playing both games correctly, apart from the mistake, and the Tapu Bulu does go down to a big Psychic. I think that's a calculation that Tobias might want to note down. We do see the Scald. Is it going to burn the Tapu Lele? It doesn't matter at this point, I suppose, but now just a little bit of a cherry on top, and we see the Leech Seed onto the Politoed, and that should finish up this game.
Yeah, Nico really had a plan. And maybe Tobias didn't expect that plan to come. Maybe he didn't expect Celestia to show up in this matchup, and but Nico really put that Celestia in a good position by taking out that Magnezone so early. Maybe Tobias shakes things up a bit by not letting Magnezone taking that much damage. Maybe it's more clever to let another Pokemon take that damage. He still got the option for Porygon 2 to bring to the next match. Maybe in the back to take those attacks if we are going to see the same attacks again. Maybe
he's
that
not
Porygon
looking happy about that. I believe the matchup is relatively in Nico's favour. Gastrodon is such a problem for Toby. I mean, he can still, catch that Gastrodon in the switch. If he does catch the Gastrodon on the switch and Horn uses that slot, he wins. Yeah. Just on the spot right there.
Well, it's really about positioning in this game. Toby plays it clever. He got the Politoed next to Tapu Bulu for covering those Gastrodon switch-ins. So Nico doesn't want to switch in that Gastrodon, but there are some points, as we have seen in this match, where it is possible for Nico to bring it in, and then it's hard for Toby once that. That's a really that is like really tough. Maybe he wants to switch things up. Maybe he wants to bring Porygon 2. I think Nico doesn't have cannot pull out that much damage onto the Porygon 2. It might not be the worst pick.
Yeah, but we do see the Tapu Lele and Arcanine lead from Nico. Do we see the same lead again? Yes, we do see the Tapu Bulu Politoed. Brilliantly done again. The grassy terrain is going to go up, especially after the terrains from Tapu Lele activates first. But to recap again, Tobias Koshitsky has a team of Magnezone, Hariyama, Salamence, Politoed, Porygon 2 and Tapu Bulu, while Nico David Diaconieta has a team of Crocodile, Porygon 2, Tapu Lele, Arcanine and Celestia and Gastrodon, which of course was the biggest threat to Toby in this matchup.
And again, this is again, we see the same leads. Politoed, Tapu Bulu, so Gastrodon cannot switch in. We have seen a Shattered
Psyche.
Thank you, Matteo. Into the Tapu Bulu slot and a flamethrower. But first, Tobias maybe wants to try to let Nico fire off the sub move into a protect to bring that Magnezone in with way more health.
About that, we are going to see the Shattered Psyche activate on the Tapu Lele. It's not in the Psychic Terrain, but we do see the Impacto Psicokinetico, and it's probably if it does target down at Tapu Bulu, this might be the end. Oh, it does. Toby is not happy about that. It's going to take so much damage. Is it going to be able to cling on? Just about, but a flamethrower is going to knock it out. That's the game. That's the game right there.
Oh, That's a huge play. That is like really huge play. Politoed skulls Arcanine, but now Gastrodon is completely free to come in and take those skulls all day long.
Wow. Heartbreaking for Toby.
Great play by Nico.
Yeah, I think if Toby had done the double protect, I mean, there was a risk of Nico Davide reading into the double protect, but at the same time, after the double protect, Toby can sort of make defensive switches, and there is also the chance of the psyche of the Shattered Psyche happening on the first turn, but wow, Toby risked so much and it just did not pay out.
Yeah, and we see Magnezone coming in, threatening both Tapu Lele and Arcanine. Arcanine maybe wants to... that's hard. That's hard. I don't know their game plans. Lele is going out and Gastrodon is switching in to take potential skulls, and we see Politoed using Protect there. Arcanine is landing a Flamethrower into Magnezone, doing good amount of damage because rain is up. It's not that much, and we see a Thunderbolt into Arcanine, taking Arcanine out.
Okay, so it's not the worst of situations for Toby, I must say, but the Gastrodon, there's nothing Toby can really do against this Gastrodon apart from the win condition that I believe he had in Game 1 and the win condition that this team sometimes relies on. We'll see more of that later if Toby wants to have an out of this game, but we do see the Tapu Lele switch in. It's going to set up the Psychic terrain. It's just going to be a generally bad time for Toby, especially with those Psychics doing so much damage.
Well, I think Toby is just adjusting his game plan. He let Tapu Bulu go down instead of Magnezone, so now Toby has to lock down Gastrodon to be the only Pokemon around. If Tobias is able to knock out Tapu Lele and what is in the back, then he may have a chance, but we see a strong Psychic into the Politoed slot. Politoed takes a huge amount of damage and heals some damage back by eating its Citrus Berry, and we see a Encore.
That's not going to work out. Those Psychics are going to hurt. At least maybe he can switch in the Salmon relatively, but that's a double target onto the Politoed. The burn is going to be even, yeah, there we go. I think that is a real clincher right there. Magnezone protecting was not the correct play. I think he was predicting the Tapu Lele to protect so that he could Flash Cannon it next turn quite safely, but now the Tapu Lele can protect from this Magnezone's Flash Cannon, and this is so heartbreaking for Tobias, but excellently played by Nico Davide.
Yeah.
Like I can't express enough how Nico Davide stuck to his game plan, which was the correct game plan against this matchup, and he stuck to it, and it's paying out for him.
Yeah, but not right off Tobias yet. We see a Psychic coming into Magnezone, doing good amount of damage. We see a Encore on Gastrodon, and
yeah, we do see the but since we did see the Encore onto the Tapu Lele, I remember now it can't actually protect. Now that I think about that correctly, the Tapu Lele does go down to 25%, and we do see the special defense drop, which doesn't mean too much, and we do see the Scald onto Magnezone. It's going to not knock it out, but the burn.
ooh,
Just salt on the wounds for Tobias. So heartbreaking. He's played so well all tournaments. It's such a shame to see this incredible run come to an end due to a very bad matchup and a heartbreaking first turn.
yeah. Now Tobias is probably searching for is there any out? How can I still win this? Nico Davide though is really in a really good position. That Politoed cannot use Skull. Tapu Lele is faster than Magnezone, being able to take Magnezone out if Magnezone decides to switch out. Doesn't bring Toby in any better situation here, so it's really hard to find a way to still win this match for Tobias right now.
Yeah, La Scottura, which is the burn in Italian is really not doing well for Toby at all right now. And even if he does switch to Polytone, I think it's a little bit too late, especially with the Magnezone is just within range of any move that Tapu Lele wants to throw at it. We do see the Intimidate, which doesn't really affect it much. Tobias is begging for a misplay. That's his only win con at this moment in time, but he does go for the Protect. I believe this could actually still be his win condition, but we do see the Psychic onto the Salamence cleverly enough, predicting that switch, and we do see the Skull Dot into the Magnezone. I believe Tobias might just still have one more win condition, but I think this Gastrodon is too... Wow, there is still one win condition, and Tobias has to really play for it right now.
Yeah, that Salamence really wants to take out that Gastrodon in one hit. Tapu Lele, it is not choice locked as we have seen, so it doesn't wear any choice backs nor choice scarf, so it may have a Dazzling Gleam. We do not know, but it's a pretty common move on Tapu Lele. We have seen Protect, we have seen Psychic. That Magnezone is slower than Tapu Lele, but yeah, Tobias is probably going for that Draco Meteor into Gastrodon.
And we see the Flamethrower onto the Tapu Lele. I believe this was his win condition. The Tapu Lele does go down to a critical hit. Doesn't really matter though, especially in the rain. Tapu Lele does go down. Do we see the Flash Cannon onto the Gastrodon? If the Magnezone goes down this turn, he loses his only win condition, and I think he will lose his win condition either way, because yeah, that's discovered onto either slot. The Salamence is going to go down, and Toby won't be able to use his win condition, which was the Perish Song.
Yeah, the Perish Song, but you have to remember the slowest Pokemon
yeah, it's Gastrodon.
is Gastrodon, so if
Tobias
Tobias
needed all 3 Pokemon in the back.
Yeah.
That's I think that's the end. You know, Tobias, I mean, commiseration to Tobias, he is going to lose this game, but he has played so well in this whole tournament. He knew where his outs were in games 1 and 3, and he did take them. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in game 3, but you can't fault him for, you know, doing his best, and his best just didn't work out because of this poor matchup that he does have against this Gastrodon team.
He did his best. He did, no doubt he did his best, and he's such a good player, and so is Nico. He like really impressed me with the plays, with the team choice. You have to think a lot what to bring into the match versus a player as Toby, and Toby sets up the Perish Song, and
yeah, the only real win condition right now is for the Magnezone to not go down to this Heavy Slam, which it does, unfortunately, and the Gastrodon to go down to multiple Flash Cannons, but yeah, that was the only out, and now that out is definitely gone, especially with the Scald from Polytoad not being able to do any damage on this field at all. Excellently played by Nico Davide Cognita. We can't underestimate how much of an achievement this is. He has reached the top 4 of this international championship. Well done by Nico Davide right here.
yeah, this is like a huge run for Nico. We have seen he won versus Tobias during Swiss rounds, which indicates they knew the teams already. Maybe Tobias didn't get to see how many Draco Meteor does to Gastrodon, and he's looking happy. And
oh no, Toby, so heartbroken.
Toby, you did your best.
You did your best, man. There was nothing else you could do. The handshake does